Eddie Van Halen, considered one of the greatest ever rock guitarists, has died. He was 65. Co-founder, lead guitarist of Van Halen, had been suffering from throat cancer. The band, a huge commercial success in the 70s and 80s, sold more than 80 million records worldwide. Its only hit single, though, or number one single, Jump, reached number one, as I said, in the US charts. And I've been speaking to the music journalist Corey Grove from Rolling Stone.
I mean, as far as it comes to innovation and inspiring so many people, you know, when you just think about how many people want to play like Hendrix, that's the same, probably the same number as people that want to play like Eddie.
He tapped the neck of the guitar, didn't he, in that sort of new way? I mean, how radical was that at the time?
It was something, I mean, it's one thing that maybe classical guitarists had done a little bit, you know, your Andre Segovia and people like that, but it wasn't incorporated into any specific style. I mean, it wasn't ratified into a style the way that Eddie did it at the time. Eddie had seen Jimmy Page from Led Zeppelin do some kind of like just pull-offs on one hand. That's what they're called on the guitar, like kind of like flurrying between notes. And he said, I could do that and I could make it even more with another hand. And it turned into this whole other thing. And then I dare say that that's the sound of 80s guitar after Eddie did that. You know, Eddie pioneered that.
Yeah. He came from a musical family. I think his father was a musician, wasn't he? And he trained at the piano. I've read somewhere, though, that he didn't really read music that proficiently. Is that true? I mean, was he just a natural performer with this innate sense of music?
Yes, absolutely. He just heard it and it came out of his fingers. You know, he's one of those rare, lucky people that can do that. Did
you know him?
I did not know him, no.
After Jump, which I think was their only number one, wasn't it? He really lived the rock and roll lifestyle to the extreme. And do you think he'll be remembered as much for that as well?
I think that, I mean, even before Jump, they were the band. Van Halen were the band that made heavy metal fun. You know, before that, heavy metal was serious and kind of dark, and they all had smiles on their faces when they did it. It was party music, you know. You could dance to it. It was a whole other style. I mean, it could be hard rock or heavy metal, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, they will be remembered, you know, and Eddie's a big part of that image. They will be remembered for making it a good time.
Just a little earlier, I spoke to another rock legend, Gene Simmons, co-lead singer, of course, of Kiss. They've known each other for about 45 years.
I think, well, I saw them in a club a long, long time ago, and I was so awed by the class and the grandeur. It's difficult to talk in rock terms with a band that didn't use tapes, didn't use backing tracks, nothing like that. All that music came out of Eddie's hand. I'd never heard any guitar player like that, certainly since Hendrix. But I want to say a moment. For me, it's heartbreaking today because I remember young, innocent Eddie Van Halen, who must have been 20 years old. I took the band into the studio and we recorded 15 songs that I produced. But it ain't about me. I want to take a moment and tell you that it's very seldom you meet somebody who's a pure soul, who's a beautiful person. I never once heard Eddie ever say anything bad about anybody, and especially other bands. And as you can well imagine, this business is full of big egos, yours truly included. Eddie was an aw-shucks kind of matter-of-fact guy, and I will tell you, sorry, I'm getting a little choked up. I will tell you a very sad story. I hadn't seen Eddie for years, and I ran into him on Sunset Boulevard, and he had a cigarette in his hand, and I didn't know what to say. How you doing? And he said, yeah, man, I got cancer. What are you going to do? I was just, I was struck by it. And then he did the strangest thing. He opened up his mouth and showed me what his upper palate looked like. And you know, it's the ravages of cancer, and I wanted to reach out. I didn't know what to do, and he sort of brushed it off. It was kind of like, And you get speechless when you meet somebody who really enjoyed life. I never saw him hang out at the usual clubs where rock stars go for the money and the chicks and all that stuff. Never once saw him. It was always about the music. And if you ever saw Van Halen live, and if you haven't, shame on you, if you ever saw that band live, when Eddie played guitar, he'd be smiling from ear to ear.
I was just looking back, Gene, and I figured that gig you saw, a small Los Angeles club, must have been 76 or so, and I know you helped them make their first demo. You've known him a very long time. He did always look like he was having such a great time, but he really did have a great time, didn't he? He pushed it.
Just, he really lived life the way you should. Just enjoy it. You only get one time around, and my prayers and condolences to his family and his friends, and certainly to the fans. Greatness has passed, and there will never be another like him.
Tributes are being paid across the music world to the guitarist Eddie Van Halen, who's died at the age of 65 from throat cancer.
The co-founder and lead guitarist of Van Halen, the band had its biggest hit with Jump in 1984. He's largely considered one of the best rock guitarists in history.
We can speak now to Mark Weiss, who photographed Van Halen throughout their career. Thank you so much for joining us live from New Jersey on Breakfast. Good to talk to you. When did you first sort of start working with him and the band?
1979 over in New Jersey. It was their second album, and they just started playing theaters, and they were selling them out. I was on assignment with Circus Magazine. I was 19, and I was real excited to shoot the band, and the crowd was amazing. And the band, there were like four frontmen, every one of them, Alex, Michael, Eddie, and David. It was an amazing band, and you know, it was one of the first bands that I actually shot for the magazine.
And we're seeing some of your pictures now, Mark. Give us an idea what Eddie was like, both on stage and off stage.
Well, off stage and on stage, he seemed like the same person because he was always smiling, you know, just smiling all the time. You know, if he wanted to do something, he would smile. And if he didn't want to do something, he would still smile and do it. He was just one of those guys that made you feel really comfortable. And, you know, he knew you were there for a reason, and he let you do what you needed to do. And when I went back into the dressing room to take some photos, you know, he would, you know, let me be a fly on the wall, and I would just leave him be, and we just had a good relationship through the decade, actually, yeah.
So he's always comfortable in front of the camera, just sort of natural?
Yeah, he wasn't a big fan of the camera, but he knew, you know, he welcomed it. He welcomed it, and always gave me what I wanted. If I told him to move to the left a little bit, he'd move to the left. If I told him to move to the right, he'd move to the right. And he was always smiling. You know, it's one thing about Eddie. You look at it, all the photos on stage too, having a good time.
And you look at some lovely tributes that have been paid over the last few hours, and so many people who were with him at the time, amazed by his just musical ability, and so many in later generations who were inspired by his work.
Absolutely. I mean, he's going to go down in history. He already is in history, generations to come. It's, you know, such an amazing talent. You know, some people are just gifted, and he took it to the limit.
Do you think that the sort of the rock star status, Mark, did that sit well with him?
I don't think he thought of it. I don't think it affected him. You know, he liked his privacy. He didn't. If a fan came up to him, he would be nice to him. I don't think he thought of himself as a rock star. He knew he was a rock star, but I don't think he wanted to think himself as one. He just wanted to think of someone that was honing his craft and playing in front of people.
Would you have a favourite memory of him down the years?
Yeah, when MTV had a contest called the Lost Weekend, and these two guys from New Jersey or from Pennsylvania won, and I'm from New Jersey, and we got in the plane together. We blindfolded them, went to the show, and we just had a party for 3 days, and it was really fun. It was a fun time, and I remember Eddie was backstage, and his wife Valerie was back there, and I was taking photographs of Eddie with his guitars, and Valerie walked in, and she said, "Oh, sorry." I said, "No, please, let's get in a photo, please." And sure enough, she got in the shot. She put a cigarette in her mouth and drank a beer, and you know, pictures like that, you know, it's just their memories, and something like that. You know, you get close to an artist. I wasn't gonna, you know, the paparazzis were following him around by then. And, you know, they let me take the photographs, and I really kind of kept them under wraps, actually, until recently. In that particular photograph, I have a book just came out and have some of those memories in there called The Decade That Rocked.
Mark, it's lovely to speak to you today. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing some of your very personal memories of time spent with Eddie Van Halen. Thank you.
Thank you.
That may go down as one of my favourite sort of bookcases as well, actually, of lockdown.
That is a cool bookcase,
wasn't it? One of the world's greatest rock guitarists, Eddie Van Halen, has died at the age of 65. He'd been having treatment for throat cancer.
His band, Van Halen, had huge commercial success in the 70s and 80s, selling more than 80 million records worldwide. Lisa Hampley has been looking back on his incredible career.
Eddie Van Halen didn't sound like anyone else. He was said to have a kind of fury. Van Halen the band, featuring Eddie's explosive guitar solos, became a staple of the Sunset Strip music scene in the 1970s and 80s. They had a string of hits. He was a classically trained pianist, and his trademark melodic style and use of harmonics helped make him one of rock's most influential guitarists. He performed with some of the music industry's biggest stars, including Michael Jackson. Eddie Van Halen had health problems throughout his career and was first diagnosed with cancer 20 years ago. His death was announced by his son Wolfgang, a bass player who joined the band in later years. He said, "He was the best father I could ever ask for. Every moment I have shared with him on and off stage was a gift." Tributes have been flooding in.
It's very seldom you meet somebody who's a pure soul, who's a beautiful person. I never once heard Eddie ever say anything bad about anybody, and especially other bands. And as you can well imagine, this business is full of big egos, yours truly included. Eddie was an aw-shucks kind of matter-of-fact guy, and I will tell you, sorry, I'm getting a little choked up.
Sammy Hagar, the band's former frontman, who departed under acrimonious circumstances, shared a picture of the two of them with the words, "heartbroken and speechless." And thousands more have been paying tribute to one of rock's superstars.